Let's also talk about getClass, a method of the object class. It returns an instance of the class. So it just sounds really confusing, but that's naming used by Java library. So we say from day one in our lectures that before you can create an object, you need to put together a Java file that contains a definition of the class. So that definition can naturally be later used with the new operator to create an object. Okay, so something like this. We can say we create a class and we call the new operator, and it returns a reference to an object. So this is the name of the class. That we can say that the class name is a blueprint of an object. So this blueprint does not disappear at runtime. It's available through the class in Java library. And again, it makes it a bit hard to talk about this subject because the class keyword is lowercase and the class object has the first uppercase character. So it sounds confusing when we're talking about it. But this is the idea, like this, right? So class is the Java keyword, and class is the name of the class providing access to the blueprint of the object described by this class. The primitive data types, such as Boolean, byte, character, and so on, as well as keyword void, okay, so also the void keyword, can be also used to create a class object. There are three ways to create class object in Java. So basically we can say, so what we can use here is the static method for name and provide our class name as a parameter, just like a string, and call this method inside the class, and that returns back the instance of the class. So for example, we can say Java language string, so this has to be fully qualified. The second way to create an instance of the class object would be to actually use it with primitive type names such as integer, .class, or use it with the name of our class, not the object reference. And finally, the third method to create object of type class is to call getClass method, which is available in the object class, and therefore we can use object reference to invoke this method, and it will also return an instance of the class object to our program. You may be wondering, why do we need to have access to this blueprint of an object by using the instance of a class? Well, it actually can be used in many different ways. For example, once we have an instance of the class object, we can say something like this. We can call class getName method, and it will print this fully qualified name for our class. Okay, so this will produce an output like this. And we can also just use the class object reference and print that. So this will return the name of the primitive Java type or interface class name preceded by the interface or class keyword. For example, for a string, we're going to get a class. So this will print a class Java language string. In addition to this, you can create a new instance by doing it like this. So once you have the object of class name, you can create new instance of it by cloning it like this. If you look up an official documentation for the class, you'll find out that there are numerous methods to find out if this class is a primitive data type, or maybe it's an array or an interface, enumeration, or a class. For example, this is official Java class documentation, and you can see here that there are numerous methods to find out more information about our class. And you can also get the superclass, generic parameters, basically everything known about the class or data type or package. Even a list of data attributes inside the class is available. So where would you use something like this? Debugging and testing tools That's an obvious answer. Debuggers can use class and its methods to examine class members as well as the private members of the class. Another example of using the class is in JavaFX, Graphical User Interface, GUI, where we import Java application and then we call its getResource method, which returns a resource stored in the same jar file where the class exists. And the value returned from this method is actually an instance of the URL class, which is then in its own turn used by fxml loader class to create your GUI window and JavaFX window controller object to manage your interaction with the user. You don't need to be too concerned about all possibilities of the class usage, but we will have to rely on its getResource method in the future to construct GUI window, for example, like this, to be able to construct the window and the window controller object. Obviously, we will have to discuss this later on.